It's the end of the week, so we're hitting the record button on a brand new edition of Bid Nerds. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Friday edition of the Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnik. I'm coming to you from Las Vegas along with my partner and host, Michael Deeb, coming from San Francisco. This is your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars on Cars and Bids, and bring a trailer and sometimes some other auction sites. Boy, there's a whole bunch of new auction sites coming out. We should probably talk about that at some point, Michael Deeb. Yeah, things are strange things are afoot at the Circle K in the auction world. This channel, what we do is we talk about cars that are coming up on these auction sites, and we kind of make predictions about what we think they're going to sell for. And Michael Deeb and I have a little bit of a competition, and we keep track of our bids. And yesterday we were really wrong, but you were going to say you want to get right into talking about these new auction sites that are coming. What's going on?
No, I was just going to say, I think what's happening is a lot of the major conglomerates in the automotive space have seen the success of the Bid Nerds, and they all want in on the action.
Yeah, I think
so
that's
they're
pretty
all
much
starting,
what it is.
They're all starting auction sites so that we'll talk about them because, I mean, this is the best advertising and the best show on the Las Vegas Strip.
It's the best live show on the Las Vegas Strip.
That's right.
Because there are no live shows on the Las Vegas Strip anymore. It's just us. Yeah, it really is kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids have been doing really well, and it just seems like there's a bunch of other brands in the enthusiast space that are all like clamoring to get a piece of that, and I just think they're all destined to fail.
Oh, don't say that. I work for one of them.
I think, how many of these can there be? I know Bring a Trailer, sells a ton of cars, but Cars and Bids does okay. They don't sell nearly as many cars as Bring a Trailer. I feel like everyone's late to the party.
I agree with you on that one. I would say that Doug DeMuro makes enough money to buy any car he wants, and if it were my company, that's all I'd care about. So he doesn't have to rule the world. He just has to not worry about money, and I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of other people are going to try to jump in. The other thing you have to consider is that the big three auction houses, we're talking Bonhams, RM Sotheby's, and Gooding. RM Sotheby's was the only one that had their act together enough over the course of the last, let's say, 15 months to do online auctions. As such, they sold several hundred cars last year, whereas it was only at the very end of the year basically around Monterey, did Gooding and Bonhams finally sell a few cars online without holding a seasonal event with their big production value. So those guys who've been in this space for years, decades even, were very late to react to the change into the market. So as such, as their reaction time was slow and they didn't dominate the luxury end, I think a lot of it leaves room for a lot of niche players to emerge, and we're going to see that over the next year or two. So we'll see.
To me, it feels kind of like NBC and CBS and ABC trying to compete with YouTube. I mean, it's like, sorry guys, it's done already. We don't need you. We never did really need you. For some reason, we always thought we did. It's like it's an analog idea in a digital world. These guys are just way too late, and I'm very curious to see their sensibilities. Now, some of the newer ones that are coming are have a younger base to them, so they'll probably have a better idea on how to make it work. But I just don't see some of these big old lumbering auction companies that are used to auctioning cars to 70-year-old and octogenarians and stuff. I don't see them being able to adapt. I think it's adapt or die, and they're gonna.
Radwood, for instance, is going to adopt and have a contract to run Hemming's auction platform. They're going to lease it out to them, and I just think there's a joke in there, whereas Hemmings was relevant when the Radwood cars were new. I mean, they're both like it. I think Radwood's got is taking this great idea to a younger audience, and they get to dress up in a different period and keep these cars on the road, and the Hemmings, their newspaper is dying. It doesn't make sense. I don't know how that's going to work. I wish them both luck because I'm fans of both, but I don't see how there's synergy between the two of them. So it remains to be seen if they will
Please don't ever say synergy again.
And move on.
Just synergy is a banned word from Bid Nerds. That is just
okay.
It's so .com crash. I'm from Seattle. Everyone's like, oh, we're gonna have synergy, and then they're .com.
Okay, so
I lost a lot of money from stock that went to crap from assholes that said synergy all the time. So I'm kind of not a fan of that word.
And then I said, instead of saying unmodified one time to you, I said unmolested, and that word was also banned from the lexicon of Bid Nerds.
I don't remember saying that. I love unmolested. I think that was a different podcast that you do. Unmolested is fantastic. We use that all the time. You are I love to molest, bro.
All right, good. I stopped using it. Okay, all right.
No, I think that was someone else, but
shot it down.
Nope, right. I love it. I love it.
Cool. I'll put it.
Bring it back. You replaced one for one. That's a good trade.
Unmolested.
I will definitely trade you unmolested for your crappy synergy. I think that is a good trade to have on the show. All right.
What about minutia?
It's a word. It's an actual word.
Is it too bohemian for Bid Nerds?
If it's actually in the dictionary, I'll take it.
Okay. All right, man.
Synergy is not in any real dictionary. If it is, it's not in a dictionary.
Done and done. Duly noted.
Stick in it. Yeah.
All right. So while we're still laughing, why don't we laugh through yesterday's?
Oh my God! What
results were laughable. Oh my God!
That was an atrocity, is what it was. Holy cow! All right, which car do you want to talk about first? Jeez.
JP, can you briefly explain to the audience what happened yesterday? Like we were really off.
So, yeah, our predictions for the cars that we talked about yesterday were just so completely wrong. I mean, we keep track and we kind of like have this little competition going, but our competition is worthless because it doesn't really mean anything. And two, just because one of us poorly guesses better than the other one, they're still both horrible, poor predictions. And we got our asses handed to us. And honestly, I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out just what the hell happened. Which one? You want to start with the one that we were most right about, the 2016?
Yeah, the Volkswagen. So we'll start on cars and bids, JP, with the 2016 Volkswagen Golf R. This selection was unusual because I failed to notice that the car was offered out of Canada. And as a younger car, it presents all kinds of problems and expenses to bring it into the United States. So you and I were, arguably a little bearish on this car, but I still said 21,000 and you said 17,005. The irony is this car, we were kind of right on the money. This car brought $19,500. So the car that we should have missed on the most, we actually was the only bid we straddled. I won because I was like $500 closer from my end than yours, and that was the most interesting result of the day. The very next car is arguably the most baffling. We looked at a 1990 Porsche 911 C2 on Bring a Trailer. This is a black-on-black 964 coupe, two-wheel drive, manual transmission with reasonably low miles. JP, wasn't it like 38,000 miles?
Yeah, 37,000 miles. Black on black, people.
Oh, my God. So
I just synergied all over my shorts.
We were bullish on this car. I said $84,000, and you bet the over and took 85. What was
thinking that, frankly, it would go even higher, and
and the only thing was there were not a lot of bids when we reviewed it, and I said, "Is this car destined for a late run?" To which you aptly said, "Of course it is. It's Bring a Trailer." This car sold for just $68,500. I'd say it was poorly sold and very well bought. Well done to that guy, unless we completely missed something.
Tariq in LA sells crappy 964 C4s with a bunch of miles on them and drives them through the desert, and he gets $90,000 for his car. There's no reason this car shouldn't have gotten $20,000 more than it did.
JP, you joke all the time about like some of these guys, some of these auction results. You say your favorite soundbite is, "Couldn't he have taken it to CarMax?" I would argue that if you're in Southern California and you have a 964 coupe, couldn't Singer have given you more money for that thing? Like, wouldn't that have been?
I mean, any Porsche.
Yeah, I'd go get a buy bid from Singer before I'd put it on Bring a Trailer.
Wouldn't a Porsche dealership give you this much money or more?
I would have. I definitely would have. But
you
then
know, I mean,
I lost my
cow.
job at God and buying Porsches, so who knows?
Oh man.
All right, the next one is a monumental head
Unbelievable.
scratcher. We have a 1974 Di Tommaso Pantera project car. Although the chassis has just 10,000 miles on it, cosmetically it was not perfect. It was very, very nice, but not perfect. This car has a seized motor and seized brake calipers and is photographed on rolling dollies. I mean, my God. And the seller, goes out of his way to remind everybody in the buying audience he has no idea what's wrong with this car. That being said, I bet 51. You shockingly bit the over at 52,000. And the only thing more shocking than your bid was the result. At $78,500, this car was sold. I'm guessing that even if the guy spends $22,000 and is in at $100,000, it's probably still well bought because he'll probably have a $125,000 Pantera when it's all said and done. But still, that's a lot of money for a car that nobody could say exactly what was wrong with it. So there you go. That's bananas.
So there's one, there's a blue chip car, the Black 964 goes for $20,000 less than it should. And here's a bucket, basically a bucket project, a Di Tommaso Pantera that doesn't run and has all kinds of issues, and it goes for, I mean, what?
Yeah, 20 to 30,000 over what it should have gone for sure. Like, that's crazy number.
You could have got the running 911. What are you doing?
I know.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and it brought $10,000 more than a 964, a non-functioning Pantera. Let's repeat that: a non-functioning Pantera brought $10,000 more than like the holy grail, the unicorn, a black on black C2 964 coupe with less than 40,000 miles. I don't know what's going on in the world yesterday. Anyway, moving on. Going back to cars and bids. Was it Zach that requested we look at this 1991 Toyota Land Cruiser BJ73? Thank you, Zach, for the submission. This was a great car to look at. You just don't see cars this cool very often in the United States. As such, it was imported from Spain, if I remember, Sevilla, Spain last year, and then the consignor offered it to us. I said 24. You thought 21, but still thought it would do well on Cars and Bids. This car sold for $16,750. Manual transmission, 4-wheel drive, turbo diesel.
I don't. My wife just suggested that we're living in Bizarro land. Any fans of C-Lab 2020? Bizarro, I love you. This is just. It doesn't make sense. This is so much better a vehicle than the Isuzu Trooper that sold for more money the day before, and or a baby G-Wagon. I mean, this is an apocalypse surviving vehicle, and you need that right now.
For the Pantera, JP, for the Pantera and $6,000, you could have bought the C2 Porsche and the Land Cruiser. I mean, that would have been sick. That would have been a haul, an absolute haul. Anyway, the final one, again with a baffling result.
This is the most baffling of baffling.
A drivetrain-less 964 cab.
What?
Backdated.
What?
Yeah. Backdated project car with no drivetrain on Bring a Trailer, and I can't even remember where this car was from. Was it Texas or something? I don't know.
Bizarro land. That's what I'm telling you. Yeah.
Straight out of Bizarro land. I said 18. You submitted this car and bet the under at 17. And this car, I can't even say it with a straight face.
I brought it in because I thought it'd be fun to talk about and kind of a joke and like, all right, all right. What do we? Have we jumped the shark on Bring a Trailer? What are we doing here?
This car sold because somebody dropped 28,000 large for that project. That is a breathtaking amount of money yet to go in. I'm guessing, JP, to your credit, the guy who bought it is a Dwayne Wick type that had the block and the transmission sitting in his garage floor, and he's like, that's it, I'll put it in that one.
Yeah, and the Target parts, because I'm sure they were watching our show and said, yeah, we're going to convert it into a Target, because that's the only thing that makes it in anything.
Only an idiot would watch our show and buy that car.
This just, I mean, here's the deal. It's like, it's one thing when you say, okay, the day is off, right? Like
Right.
sometimes you could say there's stuff going on in the world and everything.
Sure.
It seems like when everything, if one thing sells low, everything the whole day sells low. It's usually
Right.
everything's down and up, like, like any other market, right? There's a few isolated things that are different there, but you watch any trend from the Dow to Bitcoin to
Sure.
gold,
Yeah.
it goes up and down and
Yeah.
everything, insular kind of follows with it. But this was all over the place, and the things
Right.
that should have been way high were way low, and the things that should have been way low were way high.
We're way
And,
high. That's right.
yeah, so I mean, if nothing else, the people got some great deals. I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
964 and that BJ 73. I mean,
Oh, my God.
those were both
I would-
stolen.
I would love to have owned both of those cars. They're so
Yeah.
sick. Yeah,
Yeah,
really
me
cool.
too.
And JP, now transitioning right into today's things.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of review the things this morning? Most of these cool cars, which are interesting to us, which I
Mm-hmm.
think these are a cool selection of cars, most of them are seriously light on bids. Every one of the cars we're looking at is getting
Yeah.
little to no action, which is really weird. Like uniformly, and you'll see that as we review.
Yeah, and you would sure think that BJ 73 would have gone for all the money given
Oh, my God.
that the only option, the only thing it could be is just everyone thinks the world is going to end. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you think the world's going to end, you need to get the right car. And I think
Yeah.
either a 911 964 or a BJ 73 are the right cars. Which
Yeah.
of those two would you rather be driving around in the apocalypse?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're both ready for Mad Max. So there it
Totally.
is. Okay, all right.
Totally.
So yeah, let's talk. That's what we do on Bid Nerds. We make predictions about the cars that the most interesting cars and bids and bring a trailer. And I think we have a really kind of odd collection today. But
We do.
Let's start with the big one, the one that everyone's here to see, the 92.
The Cup car. Okay.
Correcto.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So we're going to start on Bring a Trailer. And what we're looking at here, JP, is a footnote in Porsche history. This is a 1992 Porsche 911 Carrera Cup USA. So in 92, Porsche was making 964 RSs, which were special cars that they made. They had hotter motors, different suspension parts, different shift linkage, different motor mounts, different glass, the thinner glass. A lot of these cars were offered without AC. Some of them were slick roofs that had no sunroofs. And most importantly, I think the thing that I think really brings the RSs together is a seam welded chassis. Now, as a marketing exercise in the early 90s, Porsche wanted to do a one make racing series called the Carrera Cup USA. And 92 was scheduled to be one of those early years. They had successfully done it earlier with 944s. But the Cup car was going to be this new two-wheel drive of the 964 Porsche. So Porsche brought in 45 of these cars, asked Andial, which is a specialist modifying Porsches, to make these cars race ready. As such, they welded in a roll bar. They put, I think, a fire suppression system in the car, and then they removed the carpet and all of the sort of interior stuff. So they left the dashboard and the door cards, and then put in a single racing seat. These cars were late to arrive. They were late out of Mondial, and Porsche decided to pull the plug on the series. They did not have enough drivers and money guaranteed to do the series. So they pulled the plug on this. So the cars went back to Andial, and they federalized the cars to remain road legal. Now, some of the cars were sold, all 45 were sold through Porsche dealers and were offered specifically to select clients that might be interested in such a unique car. They weren't terribly expensive, to be perfectly honest. I think if we were looking at the window sticker, it was like a $13,700 modification for the Cup car. And as such, these cars were only, let me see if I can find the photo real quick. They were not very expensive at all. But some of the cars got modified, JP, back to road legal. In other words, they put the carpet in and took the roll bar out, and those cars are driving around on the street, and they're basically RSs. They're kind of wolves in sheep's clothing. So the total for one of these things was $78,000, which was a lot of money in 92 for a car. But a few of these cars, the majority of these cars remained in racing spec, and then they would be raced in whatever series they could find in 93, 94, 95, and they're hugely competitive. The cars that have the passenger seats and the carpet are super desirable, and some of those have very little mileage on them, and they trade for $250,000 to $400,000 as the market goes up and down over the last, like, say, 10 years. This particular car has some miles on it, JP. It's offered to us. It's in racing spec. It's offered to us out of Lebanon, New Jersey, and it's got 58,000 miles with a roll bar and no carpet. So I would say this car has had a pretty hard life. That being said, these have 260 horsepower. They have lightweight flywheels, single mass flywheels. They have different shift linkage, different I actually think they have different brake calipers in the front, different discs. They have fully floating rotors. The cup wheels are not the same cup wheels that are on your RS America or any other 964 from that era, or even the 968. These are magnesium hollow spoke wheels. Everything about these cars is super trick, and they're very rare to come to marketplace. This one with miles, though, I think is going to suffer a great deal. The big question for me to you and to our audience is whether or not this car will break $200,000. And if it doesn't make 200, where's the reserve set? What's the owner thinking this car is worth? If you go back 3 pictures, JP, we can look at the exhaust and see if it even has heat exchangers on it.
It does.
These cars, yeah, that's
what shocked me.
These cars are road legal, which is crazy.
Yeah, look at that. You could drive this thing around. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have AC. It doesn't handle like any 964. I mean, look how lowered that car is. These are really, really special cars. They're wonderful footnotes in Porsche history because they have such an interesting story. The way they went to Andial, they were supposed to race, they didn't race, and then some of them did and some of them didn't. These are really cool cars, and I've wanted one ever since I had my RS America. I always thought if I ever traded Bunny, I would trade up to get a kind of a more road version, a Strassen version of the Cup Car USA. Only made for 1 year, only 45 cars. All of them are road legal, and here's your chance to own one of the very few. One of the rarest Porsches in America.
Back in the day, you know, the cliche is they don't make them like they used to. And here's the thing, they don't sell them like they used to. Because, you know, like you said, this car was what, $70-something thousand? Typical C2 cab was $80-something thousand. This was less expensive than most of the cars that were on their showroom floor.
Yeah.
Nowadays, Porsche says, "Oh, we can pull a bunch of stuff off the car and charge more. Let's do that." And they do in a big, big, big way. So, So not only was this car from a different era in the way they build them, it's in a different era from the way Porsche and the whole market looks at stuff like this. Unbelievably desirable car, and it's going to be very interesting to see this one hit the auction block, especially on a Bizarro week like this. That said, are you ready to make a bid on this thing?
Oh man, it's so hard, JP. It's really difficult. You know, as cool as this car is to me, and again, you know, not that long ago, to me it was all about racing seats and roll bars and lap times. I would so much rather drive this car on the street. I would leave the Momo steering wheel on there, but I would pull those seats and put stock seats in it and put the carpets in it and just have fun driving it on the road. I mean, this car on the road must be incredible. They're very stiff. You know, I don't know that you could soften them up. They come with great dampers straight from the factory. I'd put it back to as cup car as I possibly could. It's entirely possible this car is firmer still, but yeah, what an amazing car. All right, so my bid, it's up to 130, JP. Look at that. Let me read it to you one more time.
The takeaway I just got from what you told me about this car is it's damp, firm, and stiff.
It is very much, yeah, definitely. Sorry, I was rambling here because I'm just drooling over this car. What I wanted to say before I give you my bid is this car out of Lebanon, New Jersey is $130,000 on just 10 bids. I can't believe it's not getting more auction.
Just 10 bids, yeah.
I expect this thing to have a late surge because it's road legal. Oh man, so I put 165, but I'm going to go 185,000, and I think it's still well bought at that price. But you know, we'll see. 185,000 is my bid.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, that's tough because it's like, yes, it's a $200,000 car, or at least it was. We're in bizarre land. Something weird is going on. That 964 yesterday didn't bring the money, but the clapped out project car with no motor did. So I don't know. And that was a 964 base. This is okay. I'm just going to go $170 and just, I mean, there it is.
Yeah, that's fine. I will just remind our audience that at 51 or 59,000 miles of the 45, and I watch these cars all the time. I like kind of hunt for them. Yeah. This might be one of the handful of the highest mileage Cup cars in the USA. There's tons more, not tons more. When you see the next one, it's likely to have less miles. That's all I gotta say. All right, moving on. All right, should we jump to cars and bids, JP, then? And we'll top the order with our this is a really unusual car, JP. Yeah. Before I saw this, I don't think I knew anything about it. It's a 2008 Saab 9-3, but this is a Turbo X. So this has the V6 with a turbocharger and all-wheel drive. It apparently makes 20 or 30 horsepower more than the standard one. So if the standard one makes 250, you're looking at now 280 horsepower and 300 pound-foot of torque. I would say this car is actually pretty quick. All-wheel drive, a manual. Go figure, a 6-speed manual in this thing. The aero kit, it's black on black. I mean, this is, JP, is this not one of the coolest Q cars you might have seen out of that area, that region? I kind of dig Saabs, and this might be one of the nicer ones I've seen. It does have an upgrade to the Hirsch suspension, and it has a short shift kit for the gearbox. That being said, this car's got some miles on it. It's sitting on 185,000 miles, but looks from the photos to be relatively or pretty clean. It's out of Orfield, Pennsylvania, and it's not sitting on a lot of money. It's at, let me read it to you. Oh, this is a no reserve auction, by the way. 14 bids, $10,000. Take it away, JP. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the very end of the Saab era, I am absolutely a big fan of the early Saabs and the mid Saabs, but then once GM took over, it got pretty bad. But this last year or two, they made some really interesting looking cars. And, I mean, they're front wheel drive. So it's like, it's going to be a fun car to drive. But, it is a front wheel drive car. Ultimately, it's all wheel drive, but that just means it's got a little bit of extra,
30%
to the back
power.
there. And that's when it needs it. So that definitely makes it the most interesting Saab to probably drive other than maybe an early one. The fact that it's got a manual and it's black on black, I think this is a really cool car for someone that wants to keep it going.
Yeah, it could be a good commuter car, I think. And again, it's just a little different. You might not notice it, all black and it's kind of just sort of swoopy and aero. But for the person that takes a second glance, they'll be like, oh, that's a good looking Saab. Yeah, which one is that? Which one is that? So anyway, there you go.
For not a lot of money, but the thing is, this car has a ton of miles. So you look at it and you go, all right, at 10 grand, that's just right now with 14 bids and almost 2 hours to go. That really seems pretty darn high to me. I would think that this car should hammer somewhere not much more than this for a car that has under 100,000. So maybe the Saab folks are starting to come out of the woodwork, and maybe Cars and Bids, being that it's a Doug DeMuro's platform, and Doug DeMuro is a weirdo, and we say that with love, right? We say that
nerd to
nerd. DeMuro's one of the weirder ones. All right, he likes the weird stuff. You can ask him; he'll say that. This is about as weird as it gets for as normal a car as you get, right? I mean, a lot of times you get weird stuff, and it comes with all the weird things with it, right? You want a Land Rover Defender to drive around every day. It looks weird compared to most cars, but you're awesome, and also and nothing works, or everything's in the weird spot. It's this car. This Saab is like any other normal. I mean, it's like a Camry, but it's like a hopped up Camry sport version.
That's a good analogy.
But it looks kind of cool. And it's a little weird. And it says Saab on it. And you're going to have a hard time getting service for it. But other than that, that's about it. 180,000 miles, though, that seems kind of high. So you're going to be replacing some turbos soon. I don't know. What's your bid?
Yeah, so last night, JP, this car was at 7,000 on 13 bids, and now it's on 10,000 on 14 bids. So somebody tried to, I think, that's a $3,000 increase. That's a knockout bid, or at least an attempt at a knockout bid. Last night, I had put $11,000. So your suspicion that this car might not go any further is really valid. And I'm going to stay on my bid. I'm going to stay at 11,000. And there you go.
Dang,
I'm going to leave it there.
That is a really tough one to counterbid because you're right. This is something that could just sit there. The $10,000 bid from last night could be it.
Yeah,
no one else coming up in here.
Not a lot of action.
I'm gonna go bold on a Friday. I need some wins. Because I'm a little light for the week with Bizarro Day yesterday, and I'm gonna say it doesn't get a single extra bid. I think 10,000 is all it's gonna get.
Damn.
So
we should have a new category for bidding that it doesn't get another bid and being right. That should be like, something above a Yahtzee. And I will also remind the audience that you might be light this week, but you're the one with the Yahtzee. So
man. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens on this. Did someone out there really want 185,000 mile 2008 Saab?
Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's snowing there as we speak. I'm sure.
I mean, if you got to go get a car somewhere, it's way cooler than an Audi, but it has 185,000 miles. If it was a 2008 with normal miles, like 120 or something, I could see it because you're like, all right, well, I get this or I get an Audi. I mean, hell yeah, you're getting this. If you're, cool.
So Saabs are Scandinavian. Are they from Sweden? Where are they built? I forget.
They're born from jets. Sort of. I mean, in that last 10-year run, not even that. It's really kind of who the hell knows where they were built. Yes, they're Swedish cars. This car is based off of a Malibu or something like that. I mean, it's a General Motors car.
It was the Epsilon platform, if my memory serves me correct. How's that for Bid Nerd?
Yeah, there you go. You're a nerd now.
The Epsilon ad is shared by like 3 or 4 different manufacturers.
Well, the other thing too is like at the end of Saab era, they were like there was a WRX version. There's like a Subaru that's rebadged. That's basically the Impreza. There's a Saab version of the Impreza, and then there's also a Saab version of the Chevy Trailblazer, which is just an absolute hunk of crap. So when it used to be that Saab was always, when they were taken over by General Motors in the beginning, they were still like, General Motors wanted to do that. Here's a Corsica, put a Saab badge on it. And Saab was like, yeah, great idea. And then they just went and did whatever the hell they wanted anyway. And to GM's frustration. But ultimately, as things progressed and as we got into the late aughts, that was not happening because they were about to go under. And and they were hoping to be bought by Spyker. I think they were bought by Spyker for a nanosecond. And then some Indian company bought them, and then they're gone. So there it is.
So my beloved Alpha 164 was a platform sharer with Saab, and the way you and I like those old turbocharged Saab 9.3s, I would say the driving position and some of the clutch and shifting characteristics of my 164 are very Saab reminiscent.
I was not aware that the 164 shared a Saab platform. That is from one nerd to another. That's pretty amazing to learn that.
I think that's true. Yeah, that was not the only car built on that platform.
I loved my 164. It's total hunk of shit.
Yeah.
I loved it.
So that Aero that we just looked at, the 9.3, I think is shared with like 4 or 5 different cars. The 164 was like 3 different brands shared that platform. So yeah. All right.
Well, I think we've probably lost half our audience of 4 people. So because who cares about Saab? All right, let's move on to some more interesting stuff and moving along. We are a little long for the day, but everybody's loving the nerd out today. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. It's time to do it. What's next, buddy?
Okay, so 1988 Nissan.
Oh, snap.
Nissan hardbody desert.
Oh, we lost you there, Michael Deeb. What happened to you? Bring it back, buddy. Folks, we are having some technical difficulties with our live stream. We appear to have lost Michael Deeb. So I don't even know if you guys can see what we're showing here. Showing a 1988 Nissan pickup truck. Oh, it's so badass. We're going to give Deeb just another few moments to go. And if he doesn't come back, it looks like we have lost him. So you guys are stuck with me. And even our stream is pretty frozen up. So we're going to hang out, guys. We might be able to see if we can get him back in. And it does not appear that way. All right, guys. Well, our stream is all kinds of locked up. We've got a 1988 Nissan hard by Desert Runner 4x4. This thing is super cool. It's sitting at just $6,600 on Bring a Trailer with over 2 hours to go. This car... Hold on, guys. This is just... I think we're going to just go ahead and end this week's Bid Nerds. We had a technical issue. We're going to say thank you very much. You can go to the site. You can go and see the information below and look at the cars that we've reviewed. We'll put our bids up there, and we'll talk about it more on Monday during the 9 o'clock hour on Bid Nerds. The most interesting cars and bids, and Bring a Trailer. Your daily nerd out on those things. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.